Alrighty, hello everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar titled National Research Mentoring Network Resources for APS Members and for Psychological Scientists and Students. This event will be approximately 60 minutes. Let me introduce myself first. My name's Andy DeSoto, and I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Association for Psychological Science. If you aren't familiar with APS, we are an international organization of approximately 30,000 individuals who are dedicated to advancing psychology, research psychology across disciplinary and geographic borders. And today I'm very excited and pleased to welcome a special presentation from the National Research Mentoring Network, or NRMN. NRMN, if you're not familiar with that, is an initiative supported by the US National Institutes of Health, which works to implement and disseminate evidence-based best practices to improve mentoring across the country, connecting mentors with motivated and diverse mentees at all career levels. NRMN's mission, which is shared and supported by APS, is to establish a culture in which historically underrepresented scientists, and in this case mentees, are positioned to progress in their careers and contribute to the behavioral science research enterprise or research in other areas. One reason that we're especially glad to continue to connect the psychological science community to the work of NRMN is knowing the great deal that our field at psychological science can contribute to important topics that are so relevant, such as improving education and learning, understanding discrimination, bias, racism, and explaining and understanding interpersonal relationships and human behavior, among many other topics, ranging from very basic scientific research to the most applied work. This webinar today is going to be recorded, and later on we'll link to a recording. We'll be able to provide slides for the discussion today, and a member of the APS Observer membership magazine is on hand to also provide a nice write-up of this event today. So lots of ways to share the information that you'll hear about today with your colleagues or review it later if you're interested. So with that, let me go ahead and kick it over to today's speaker, Katie Stinson, who is the Virtual Engagement Strategist for NRMN. Katie holds a master's in library and information science, and she's a sociologist in training. She supports NRMN's Resource Center, which is situated at the University of North Texas. Katie has a great presentation demonstration for everyone in NRMN and how to engage, and like you, I'm really excited to learn more about the initiative, its work, and how to engage from her today. So Katie, with that, please do take it away, and thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Andy. And hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen really quickly so I can get started on my presentation. Like Andy said, I will be sharing these slides with APS once we're done today, and in that way they can be disseminated out to you. However, there are several links in here that I am also going to paste into the chat feature. So if you want to go ahead and pull that up, that way you can have quick and ready access to those links. If you would like to record them for later, please feel free to do so. So I just want to get started. My name is Katie Stinson, and I am the Virtual Engagement Strategist for the National Research Mentoring Network. Now, what that fancy title really means is that I manage our online virtual community called My NRMN, which houses all of our resources exclusive to NRMN members. Now, it's important to note that all the resources that I'm going to show you today, as well as membership to join NRMN, is all completely free. All of this is funded by the NIH as an initiative to diversify the STEM research workforce. So to get started, today's agenda, I'm going to go over what NRMN is, as well as go over some of the resources that are available to anybody, whether you're a member or not, as well as what the resources are that are available and exclusive to my NRMN members. And then I'm going to leave some time at the end for a Q&A session. If you have questions throughout the time that we're going through here, feel free to put them also into the chat window, or you can also utilize the Q&A function as well. So first and foremost, the National Research the National Research Mentoring Network is an NIH initiative to diversify the STEM research workforce. And how we do that is by providing whatever resources we can, including mentoring, networking, and career development resources to help people get from one career education stage to the next. Now, because this is NIH funded, they do have a stipulation where anybody who would like to enroll as a mentee must be at least 18 years or older, and also must be a US citizen, a permanent resident, or a non-citizen US national. For mentors, the stipulation is that they must be at least 18 years or older, but they do not need to meet that citizenship requirement. And as of today, I actually just looked at it. We do still have over 17,000 mentors and mentees in our network, but we actually have almost closer to 18,000 now. We are at 17,800 today. So we are continuing to grow every single day. We actually started in 2014 and have just been growing exponentially since then. So we're still really excited about it. And we keep adding new features and new things every day. I'll be showing you how everything looks now. Unfortunately, I can't predict the future just yet, but I'll go ahead and give you a snapshot and overview of how everything works today. So I just want to introduce you really quickly to our team. You can see that we are small, but we get a lot done and you'll be able to see all of that. So we are actually located out of two institutions. The Resource Center, like I said, out of two institutions. I'm located out of the University of North Texas Health Science Center, as well as Dr. Vishwanatha, Damaris Javier, and Brady Burns. And then out of Vanderbilt is our tech team, and that includes our co-I, Dr. Ahmed, as well as Zainab Latif and Jay Johnson. So now I'm going to dive into the NRMN resources, all of which are available on the NRMN website. And just so that way you can have access to that, I'll post that here into the chat. So this is our website, and whenever you go to there, you will have access to some of our career development webinars, access and knowledge about our partnership opportunities. You can also sign up for our newsletter within there, which we have almost 30,000 subscribers to our newsletter. And then you can also connect with us on our social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we also have a YouTube channel as well. We actually just hosted a few new career development webinars this month, and you can check out all of those on our YouTube channel as well. So I also am going to put in here, if you would like to subscribe to the newsletter, here is the link to do that. So we also have some upcoming events that I want to announce. First and foremost, we are here today and we're scheduled to have this for you today because currently January is National Mentoring Month. And so we've had a lot of events pertaining to that, and we still have some other things coming up in the next few months. So starting actually tomorrow, and I'm definitely going to put this link into the chat because it's a very important webinar that we're actually hosting in collaboration with another initiative called the SEAL program. And this is something that is addressing attitudes and science mistrust during the COVID-19 pandemic. We did another one about 2 weeks ago that was actually focused specifically on issues happening in Texas around debunking misinformation within COVID and the vaccine. This one is more on a national scale. And so we're trying to get the word out about it. And this is tomorrow. If you are unable to attend during that time, you are welcome to register for the event, and then we will send a follow-up email with a link to the recording that will be in our YouTube channel. Then also there is one, this isn't actually NRMN hosted, but Andy asked me to share the SOBC 101, the Science of Behavior Change for Psychological Scientists, and I'll post that information into the chat now. There's a little blurb about that too, so that way you can read about that. Finally, we also have a monthly webinar on other features within NRMN. I'm going to be able to go over a lot with you today, but as you'll see once we get into it, I won't be able to cover everything. So this is another way to get some insight and to get some knowledge about what's going on within the network. And it's also where we end up introducing new features and things like that whenever we have them ready to go. And then finally, we have a webinar with Dr. Jamie Rubin. She's done several webinars with us in the past, and she does wonderful webinars pertaining to grantsmanship and grant coaching and grant writing. And so that one is coming up in March. So I went ahead and posted links to both of those, the how to leverage the NRMN network and the best practices for junior investigators when writing an NIH research grant application by Jamie Rubin. So if you would like to register for any of those, all the links are in there. But as I said earlier, I'm also going to send this slide presentation to Andy and Kekoa, and then that way they will be able to share that and disseminate it amongst you all. So next up, how to create your NRMN account. It is very simple. You can simply go to those links, or if you have your phone out now and want to hold it up to your computer, you can also scan that QR code. Alternatively, I will also copy and paste the link into the chat as well. And if you want to just go ahead and capture these links or wait until later, that's perfectly fine. And I am going to show you everything that's within NRMN, and then that way you can make a decision about whether you would like to join or not. So finally, I also want to put one more piece of information. I'll post this also at the end. But if you have questions either during this and you don't want to ask them within the discussion panel or within the chat discussion panel, or if you just want to reach out to me directly, you are welcome to do so. And I will put my contact information into the chat as well. So, all right, we are just about done posting things into the chat. So don't worry, we won't have too much to go through from there. But now I would like to go ahead and take you into the actual My NRMN resources that are available within the system. Now, again, resources within My NRMN are those exclusive to members of or excuse me, are exclusive to members of NRMN. So here is what it actually looks like within My NRMN. You can see it looks very similar to other social media platforms. The difference is instead of having things to, just do with activities or playing Animal Farm and things like that, you can actually come on and utilize these resources. And all of them are targeted to help you get, again, from one career education stage to the next. So the way this is organized is that over here in this panel on the left-hand side are all of the different resources that we have available. Then up here at the top are your top your top matches based on our matching algorithm. Now we derive this matching algorithm based on how you complete your profile as well as how you interact within the system. So if you are constantly interacting with people that are from a particular university and from a particular field of study, then those are going to be people that are going to be recommended to you for things that are surrounding that nature of it. If you're also interacting in particular groups, or if you're posting particular publications, or however you're reacting and connecting to people, it's going to feed in and kind of match that up. And then that way it'll use that pattern in order to help you network and find other people that you may not have thought about networking with prior to that. Then also there is this find a mentor and ask a mentor feature, and I will go into those on a more broad scale whenever I show you what it's like within the search feature. Down the center is your news feed, which is very similar to what you would see on Facebook. So anybody that you're connected with, any messages you receive, any postings that happen within any groups, all of that will show here. If you do happen to be in something that is more specific and tailored specifically for a group that you're in, then you will receive links and have quick access to links up there. For the purpose of this, we're not going to go into that, but I do still have those on my profile, so that's what you're seeing there. But if APS or another organization that you're involved with ever decides to have something more exclusive and tailored for them, then they could create a space for that, and then you would have the links out to all of those right here. Then finally, we also have your connections, and that's people that you have reached out to connect to, just like you would on LinkedIn or Facebook. And finally, we also have recommended groups, again, based on that matching algorithm. So what I also want to show you before we really dive into the features are the profiles. And this is something that's very important in the system because that's how we're really we're using all of this to derive how to recommend matches to you and how to help you network best you can in the system. And then also within that too, we are a diversity program, and we are looking to make sure that we're doing our jobs for increasing the diversity in the STEM fields. So we do ask a lot of profile questions here, as you can see, and some of them are a bit sensitive in nature to some people, and that's perfectly okay. So I wanted to point out that anything that has an asterisk next to it does factor into that matching algorithm. And then anything that has a 1 next to it is kept completely private and is not anything that we would ever share. And whenever we do use this research or do use this data for things for research, it all is kept completely confidential and carries no identifiable information. So I just wanted to point that out if you're hesitant to fill any of those out. And as always with any of these, you have the option not to complete those and not to fill those out. But please know that everything is kept completely confidential and we do not share any of that information. However, if some of that information is stuff that you would like to share about yourself, you are absolutely welcome to within the About Me section. So you're welcome to do that. And then finally, I want to point out my account in here is a mentor account. And for mentors, we know that they are volunteering their time to do this and that they are, doing whatever they can. And they also have full-time jobs usually, and also are involved in multiple other organizations, maybe even committee members on those. And so they have a lot going on. And we want to make sure that because they are volunteering their time, knowing that they are not making themselves overwhelmed with this. So we do enable all mentors to be able to put on an out of office. You can see I used mine when I was out for some extended time over the holidays. And so I'll go ahead. I had already turned it off because I had an expiration date on it, but this way it'll go ahead and save it. So while this loads, or while this saves, I'll go ahead and talk about how, a lot of people on here will come in and see that this is for biomedical sciences. And I want to point out that during the initial funding period for NRMN, we were focused more on the biomedical sciences. But as we really saw the scope of this, we extended it out to all STEM fields. And so that includes behavioral sciences, social sciences, and everything that's involved within that realm. And we're finding that there are so many different interdisciplinary research projects happening and so many different things that actually contribute to research that's not just strictly laboratory research or strictly biomedical research, that really this is a great way to come in and find people and network with people that really could be great contributors to your projects and to your research endeavors, but maybe would be people that you don't necessarily have direct access to right now. So that's a big entity of this, is that if you are looking to do a research project, say you're wanting to research into health disparities, we all know that we can find the science and there are scientists out doing the research on the different studies of diabetes and of cancers and that type of thing. But there's so much of a question of the why behind that. And that's something that only the behavioral and social sciences can really answer. And so they're looking actually to come together for that. So I just wanted to express that this is definitely a space for behavioral sciences and social sciences, in addition to biomedical sciences and engineering and that type of thing too. So now that my page is loaded, I'm going to go ahead and show you first the search feature, because this is a very robust search feature, in that it doesn't just pull people, it also pulls everything within the site that pertains to the key terms that you put in here. And you don't have to just put in people like I'm showing you. I put in a key term. And that way you can really search the entire site for where all of this is mentioned. So I typed in the term biology, as you can see, and we have over 3,000 results from that. And we can go ahead and further narrow that down to either specific members, and even narrow that further to mentors, mentees, or members. You can also narrow that down to groups, and I'll show you what the groups are in a bit. You can narrow that down to questions, which pertains to this Ask a Mentor feature, which is very similar to a Reddit feed where anybody in the network can go in and pose a question to the entire community, and anybody in the community is able to respond to that and start a dialogue. Then you can also filter it down by journal entries, which pertain to this My Journals. If we have a chance at the end, I'll cover this, but for now, I'll just discuss it. So the My Journals, that's actually your own personal blog space. And so if you decide to go in and write something in here, it would actually post out to all those that you're connected to. However, if you wanted to post this to the broader community and actually share this with the broader entire My NRMN community, you could share it publicly and have it post here to this My NRMN Journals. Now, there are other aspects that would pop up here if that was within the search terminology. So if there were any publications that someone had, that would populate here. If there were other entities on here that populated with the term of biology, all of that would display here. It's not just limited to these. But then you can also further filter by institution, by more specific interest, by any concepts if those are listed, as well as location. Now, something that I would recommend that I've seen a lot of people do is they are very, very, very specific and focused on what they're researching. And, if you come in looking just for that very, very specific entity, it's going to be difficult to find that because you are probably one of the few people that are researching that. However, if you start broad and then work to narrow your way down, as you can see that we've already curated for you, you'll be able to have a much better result from that, and you'll actually be able to connect with a lot more broad people and even expand your research scope from there. But for now, I want to go ahead and talk about all these little blue buttons that are here next to everybody. So you can see from this search result, I'm pulling mentors and mentees. Some I'm connected to, some I am not. And then all of them have this ask me a question feature. So we found that a lot of people, whenever they first come into this network, were really intimidated and trepidatious about reaching out to others and just thinking, oh, I'm just asking for a connection from this person I don't know. So we wanted to give them a space to be able to initiate that conversation without just directly asking for that connection. So we created this ask me a question button where it really just allows you to start and ask a dialogue before reaching out and asking for that to connect, or even determining if you would like to connect with somebody. Then we also have this request mentoring button. And so like I pointed out earlier, I am a mentor in the system, but I am still able to request mentoring from other people in this system. And this request mentoring is actually one of two mechanisms that we have for one-on-one mentoring. So within this, you would come in and update your CV or resume, which we also have a CV resume builder, and then simply send them a message. Now, I like to refer to this type of mentoring as a self-structured mentoring, meaning that it is up to you to dictate what type of mentoring you want, how you want the mentoring to go, how long you want the mentoring to last, and really what the capacity for that mentoring is. So I've seen people come in and say, hey, I see that you are working at Vanderbilt University and I would like to work there. Can I pick your brain for 15 minutes to, just go through the application process? Or you can see someone else that has written about that they have experience in grant writing and you're looking for help with that. So you ask and say, hey, can we have a couple sessions just to talk about grant writing so I can figure out how to go about this? And then I've also had people reach out to me. My background is in journalism, and then I have a master's in library and information science, and now I'm working in social science. So I'm very much kind of on the liberal side of the STEM fields. And when it comes to that, I often get asked for help with writing. And so I've had multiple mentees reach out to me and say, hey, I need some help with my writing. Can you be my go-to person whenever I have a question about this or when I need some help on this? And so it really is up to the mentee to determine, or whoever is taking the mentee role in this, to determine how they want to initiate that mentoring connection. So then you can see that all of that is answered here. So that's how you can go about that. But then I want to go into the second form of mentoring that we have. And this is what we refer to as our one-on-one guided virtual mentoring. And so this is more of a long-term mentoring connection where we actually provide you prompts along the way to help guide that mentoring connection. So you'll be able to see, like I've said, I'm a mentor in the system and I already actually have a mentee in the system who, by the way, is fake. So that way I can actually show you what it's like inside of the mentoring connection. But I want to show you how a mentee would actually get started in this. So from a mentee profile, I'm using a demo profile of mine. A mentee would actually come in and select their specific path or curriculum, and then click select a mentor. Now there's three different ways to go about actually obtaining your mentor, or selecting your mentor, I should say. And the first way is up here at the top. This is option one. And this actually matches you with your top three mentoring matches based on that matching algorithm. Now, I should note that the profile I'm using right now is completely empty. It has no information on there. And you can see I'm only matching with other people who also have empty profiles. So for you, your profile, so long as it's complete, would look a lot different than this for your matches. But the second option is actually to search through the database of mentors that have enrolled in my mentor. And then the third option is actually asking for the system administrator, which is myself, to actually find a match for you and make that request for you. And so all of those ways are ways that you can go about seeking a mentor to engage with you in a one-on-one guided virtual mentoring connection. Now, what that connection actually looks like whenever you get into it is this. Now, I will point out that this is my demo connection. As you can see, this is a person that doesn't really exist. And so I also want to point out that all of these are past due, but that doesn't mean that I can't go in and still do everything. I'm not restricted just because things are past due. I'm only getting an orange bar. Now, I've also completed this connection and uncompleted it multiple times. So it also shows that I have my completion certificate here, which you would not actually receive until you've actually completed your connection. So I wanted to point that out. But first and foremost, within the connections, you will have the schedule a video call, which if you've noticed, that's been on every single screen within my NRMN. And that actually enables you to schedule a video call for a time in the future. It actually syncs up with the My NRMN calendar, which also I'll show you in a bit how you can sync that up with your personal calendar. Then if the person is online right now, you don't have to schedule a video call with them for the future. You can actually just click this little button next to their name and you would be able to jump onto a video call with them right here and now. And then whether they are online or not, you can always send messages. If they're online at the same time, then you would be able to have almost a text message back and forth with that, or an instant message back and forth. And if they're not online, then you would just be able to leave those messages for them. Now you can also have just general discussion board discussions here, and you can discuss goals and that type of thing and even share files. But within each of the goals too, there's also an individual discussion board. And so I will show you what that looks like now. So within here, this is actually what it looks like inside these goals and how it works. Now, as I've shown you, or as I've told you, the goals, it looks like it's completely overdue, and it is because it was due for me on August 4th. But that doesn't mean that I can't do anything within here. I'm not locked out of it. I'm not restricted in any sort of way. I just have an orange bar. But if that orange bar bothers you, I'll show you how to change that in just a second. So all the goals are structured where there is a prompt. Some of them have a video, some do not. And then they all have tasks to accomplish your goal. And that's, how how every goal works out is that you have tasks leading up to accomplish it. But these tasks aren't tangible things that you have to turn into one another. Instead, it's actually kind of a rubric to make sure you're addressing the talking points necessary to accomplish this goal. And so what would happen is you all would read through this prompt together. And then as you have these conversations, you would just mark them off the list. And additionally, if you want to add or subtract anything with the goals, you can also do that here. Now, in order to edit any of this, you just simply click Edit Goal. And this way you can truly make all the changes necessary to it in order to make this as customized as you need for what you need to get out of it. And so you can change the dates on here and change the deadlines on it. And that way it's just going to make it that much easier for you. And that way, if you hate that orange bar at the top and you want to keep yourself a little more organized, you're able to do that. And you can also change all of the text in here as well. So really, this is a great place to take the opportunity to make this what you need it to be to get the most out of it for you. And within these as well, the mentor and the mentee all see the same thing. So if you make a change in this, it's a mirror reflection for your partner. So that way you're not having to have that communication back and forth about what are we going to change? How are we going to change it? Instead, you can just change it all here in real time and they'll see that change as well. And then finally, at the very bottom of each and every goal, there is a discussion board where you can also change files. So maybe one of the tasks that you add is something of proofreading an abstract or getting, just a review on something that you've done, and you can share those files here. So we really try to make it so that you can have all forms of communication within My NRMN without having to share any of your personal contact information if you're not comfortable doing so. And then finally, once you have completed the mentoring connection, you will also receive a certificate of completion, which looks like this as soon as it loads. So here you go. You would be able to see when this was completed and be able to save that. So next, I want to dive into the My Groups. So that's actually this one. And this is one of our most popular features. So you can see I'm involved in a whole lot of groups here. But you can also, for anybody who's coming in, if you search for something and don't find a group that's pertaining to your particular interest, that's okay, because mentors and mentees alike can create their own new groups. Now, I want to point out one particular group here. It's called the Opportunity Board. I highly recommend this to everyone because anybody that comes in and says they have summer research opportunities, they have job openings, they have funding opportunities, anything that's an opportunity within the STEM fields gets posted here. And then if you just join this group, you'll actually receive an email every time something new is posted. And that way you'll know to go in and take a look at it if you choose to. Now I want to go into this particular group. It's one that I use as a demo a lot. And so I just want to show you the structure of how all of this works. So within each group, you have your discussion board down in the center where you can share files and upload anything that you like here. And any files or image that you upload archived into this file section, into this files hyperlink for your ease to, retrace it later. There is also a group video call feature here. Now you will see it is still in beta, and that is because it does cap out around 50 participants. So if you have more people than that that you would like to attend a particular call, I would recommend using something alternative such as Zoom or Blackboard Learn or whatever you're most comfortable using for those, group video calls. But if you want to keep it to 50 participants or less, we have the capabilities for you to do that here. You can also upload an image as well as schedule events. You can have multiple owners on that group. There is no limit to how many owners you can have. And you can change out those owners as you need to. Just, if things are changing throughout the semester, if you have different leadership throughout the year, you're able to do that. There is no cap on how many members you have. And then there's also a history for how many, for everything that has been posted. So I also want to point out that for those that are owners of the group, they also have the capability to see the group metrics. And so if you were using this group, say, as a chapter at a university for an organization, or if you're doing something that's grant funded and you need to be able to report numbers, or if you just want to be able to see what's going on an aggregate level, you're able to actually see the group metrics here and even narrow that down by a time frame. So next, I've talked about multiple events and seeing events here and scheduling meetings. So I want to show you how that works within the My Calendar feature. So here is the calendar. You can see I don't have a lot on here right now. Unfortunately, my real calendar is very, very different. But whenever you are getting active on here, whenever you're scheduling meetings with people, whenever you're doing things, I know it can be cumbersome to have to look on this calendar and in your calendar. And any events that you have in here, you would also receive an email notification an hour prior to the event. But whenever it comes to scheduling your day, that can still be cumbersome and you're likely to overschedule yourself. So what we do is enable you to manage your subscription. And what you would do is copy and paste this link into a new window. And upon hitting return or search for on that new window, it would actually prompt you to sync up this calendar with your personal calendar. And that's, your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, whatever calendar you're using, you're able to sync it up with that. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. Now, something else that we have just launched this past year is called My Courses. And we launched our very first course at the tail end of July. And we already have almost 750 members within this course, or people who have enrolled in this course. Now, this is our unconscious bias course, as you can see, and we actually partnered with two people who are unconscious bias experts, both located out of the AACOM or affiliated with AACOM. And they came together and helped us really build this course out. And so for this first course, it has 5 different modules. Each module takes approximately 20 minutes to complete. And really, this is addressing the unconscious bias that, we're seeing in our nation and that we're seeing, that's attributing to the systemic racism and everything that we've been learning about, especially over this past year. And so all of this is helping to address that. And as you can see too, that this is our first course and we are working on new courses now. I'm actually in the process of helping to develop a new course, and we're actually breaking it into 2 different parts because we have so much information, but it's going to be a launching research course. So, and it's going to be, like I said, divided into 2 parts, and we're hoping to have that ready to go this spring so that we'll be ready for any summer research programs that are coming up this summer. And then we are also in the very, very early stages of working toward implementing a mentor training course as well. So next, I know a lot of you are involved in different research projects and working on getting published. And so we have a place for you to actually sync up your publications here. Now, first, I would recommend if you don't have an ORCID ID yet, this is a great way to really sync up all your publications into one area. And actually, so ORCID is a separate entity completely from my NRMN. This is something completely on its own. And ORCID profiles are completely free to create. But the reason why I'm pointing this out and the reason why we've added this into my NRMN is because NIH applications, whenever you apply for grants, they now require you to sync your ORCID ID with this. So we wanted to create a space for you to go ahead and have that ready to go whenever you're submitting any applications. So if you don't have an ORCID ID, you would actually have a little button here that would prompt you to create one if you wanted to. And then if you did have one, you could sync that up with it, as I've done with mine. Now we also have a publications list where if you don't want to sync your ORCID ID, or if you want to pull in addition to that, then you can also download any publications from PubMed. Um, and you can see here, it is pulling based on my name, predominantly my last name. Now, unfortunately, this is not me. I don't actually have any publications right now. Um, but if this, whenever it would pull your name, it would pull all the publications that could be associated with your name. And then if there are any that it's pulling that are not yours, you're able just to delete those off your profile. Now, before I delete that off my profile, I want to point out that any publications that you sync to your name is also going to factor into that matching algorithm that we have. Because anybody that would come in, and if this was me and I left it on there, if they were searching for meditation or chronic pain or even adolescence, all of that would actually factor, like I said, into that matching algorithm, and it would show as a search, or it would generate my profile as a search um, whenever somebody was searching for those topics, and that way they would be able to connect with me, excuse me, and talk further about their research or talk about collaborating on future research or things like that. So since this is not me, I will go ahead and delete it off. Hoping to have some publications soon, so hopefully that'll come in. And then finally, one last thing I want to show you before we jump into the Q&A portion of this is the My CV Resume Builder. Now, this is actually my favorite thing within my NRMN. And part of the reason for that is that I spent, the first part of my career in advertising and in the business world. And since then, I've transitioned more into the STEM world. But if anybody is familiar with the business resume versus the STEM CV, they are completely different. And trying to, modify my resume from, that simple one page that if you go over that, it's not getting looked at, to it needing to be as many pages as possible and to make sure you put everything on there. It was really intimidating. So this is a great way to kind of guide you through how to construct that STEM CV and make sure that you've got everything covered on here. And then my favorite aspect about this, once you get everything how you like it, you click publish, and then you get this unique URL directly to your STEM CV on here. And you can see it automatically formats everything for you. I left lots of things off because, this is not my full information on here. But you can see how it formats things, and you can see how even though I left things off, it completely formats and just omits those and doesn't include things and doesn't do that. And then, so you've got this here. And what I've seen a lot of people do with this is actually use the unique URL and create a QR code with it, and that on the back of their business card, or put that on a poster presentation, or put that anywhere that they would want somebody to be able to have access to their CV, but without having to hand them a PDF or email them a PDF. However, if anyone did need a PDF, anybody with this link would also be able to download a PDF of that CV or resume. And what else I really, really love about this, you can see there's what the PDF would look like, is that whenever you make any updates to this, as you all know that you're supposed to really be updating your CV every 6 months to every year or so. And instead of having to go through and, make a new version and save a new version and save a new version after version after version each and every time, instead you can come in here, make any updates, and then it's automatically going to update this page. You don't have to save a new URL. You don't have to save a new version. It's all going to be updated right here. So that as soon as you make those changes, you don't have to redo anything else. It's automatically updated. So I know I've talked a whole lot about several things in here. I haven't been able to cover everything, but I would like to go ahead and open it up for questions and give you some time if you want to put anything into the Q&A, or if you want to put it into the chat feature, you're welcome to do so. And I see we already have one question into the Q&A. It says, is computer science regarded as a part of STEM and NRMN? And is it possible to find mentors in computer science? Yes. So STEM pertains to science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. So they actually added another M to the end of STEM this past year, I believe, to actually separate out clinical research, or I'm sorry, scientific research and clinical medicine. So that's something I learned this past year. I was impressed with it. But that way you can go through and actually ask in um, or so yes, the technology is factored into NRMN, and you can definitely do a search for the computer technology in here and actually have that and see who pops up with it. I will say up front though that, ranging into all the aspects of STEM is something new. Like I said, in our first funding phase, we started out with biomedical sciences. So we are building up to those STEMs and actually getting more of those every day. But that is something that the computer stuff in there and the computer technology, it is small right now, but it is growing. So we have another question. Does the CV resume builder keep a history of previous CV versions? At this time, it does not. I don't know if we are considering building that out in the future, but at this time, it is just a running list of things that actually goes through and doesn't save version after version. If you wanted that saved, however, you could always save versions of the PDF if you needed to. All right, so we've got a question in the chat. Is this the first foray into psychological sciences, or do you already have an APA or other psych associations on board? So I have worked with so many different organizations and I've worked with so many different universities. And to be honest, I don't know a lot. I have a hard time recalling what their actual associations are. It ends up all being kind of alphabet soup. So I cannot recall at this time if I specifically have worked with other psychological or even behavioral sciences. Um, I know that we've got a lot of that in here. I know that we've got a lot of behavioral sciences in here, but I'm sorry, I cannot recall right now if we've got someone specifically into the psychological sciences or if we've got other groups that I've worked with at this time. I'm sorry, I wish I could have answered that better. So the next one, is it feasible for a department to use this platform for initiatives or groups they are working on which map into STEM? Yes. I actually work with a lot of groups and a lot of departments that do that. In fact, they utilize this My Groups feature a lot. So you can see I've got lots of different ones in here, and they're all ones that I've helped other people create in order to get these done for their groups. And you can also, whenever you're creating these groups, you can actually invite members in to join. So people that aren't necessarily NRMN members yet, and actually use that to invite them in. Another way, and this is something that I want to point out, that you would have to ask for special permission to have this. And by that, I mean, you would have to send me an email. Um, but it's a My Cohorts feature. So this is not something that you also won't see this one here either. But so this is not something that you would see whenever you log in and access your profile. You would have to ask for this. But anybody is able to ask for a My Cohorts feature. Now, I will say I wouldn't recommend just coming in and saying, can I have a My Cohorts feature? But it would be something that, if you have an organization or group, that you can come in and do this. And this is a way where you can actually invite people in to join and then actually see how they're interacting on an aggregate level in the system. And then you can also use this to assign courses for that person to take or for that group to take. You can assign groups for them to join. You can assign other things to them in the system. So that way you can actually utilize that to really just see how your group is operating. You can do anything for reporting purposes, as well as make recommendations for them to do things. And you can see the different types of aggregate numbers that we take. And again, I'm showing you a demo group, so it's all 0, but I wanted to point that out. Let's see, so another question. Can you tell us about anything that NRMN is learning about ways to be the most effective mentor-mentee? And is NRMN producing or publishing any scientific research results? So yes, so there's actually, if you look up Christine Fund, I'm going to type her name in here. She actually was she actually was running NRMN in the first phase. And she is out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and she does so much research on effective mentoring, mentoring best practices, and just lessons learned from mentoring. And she's got some great articles out there, and I would definitely recommend looking her up, as well as within the NRMN website, you can see from NRMN resources. And let's see, I'm in the wrong place. So you can actually see NRMN publications, and we've got lots of publications that either have been created as a part of NRMN, as something that was research found from NRMN, or research that we just think is fascinating and we are also, just highlighting on here. So this is where all those articles are published, as well as subscribe to our news. So find any articles that are published as a result by NRMN funding, or things that are really just pertinent to the mentoring and STEM communities. We post those in there as well. So all of that is in there. And then we also, the NRMN Resource Center, is also working on different publications right now. We are in the works of kind of demonstrating how we've utilized this system and what we've learned from just this network and how this has been implemented. And all that's coming up in future publications. But then we've also got some stuff in the work where we're analyzing the data now on how people are actually utilizing the network, how they're actually networking, and what are the results of these networking connections and how these networking connections are occurring. So there's some stuff in the works for that, so I can't really go into details on it, but we do have stuff that we're working on for all of that. All right, so the next question, has the funding source committed to support this platform and for what period of time? So we are funded by the NIH. The very first phase was from 2014 through 2019, and the second phase was funded starting in 2019 and is through 2024. However, we've got such a vast network of people in here. We've got so many resources going, and the diversity issue, unless it gets cured in the next 3 years, we plan on still existing and going forward beyond that. So we will be here for the long haul. This isn't going away until all of the diversity issues in the United States are fixed. So we plan to be here for a while, which is both good for us and unfortunate for the country, but that's another topic for another day. All right, so the next question, can members see the demographics or fields of study of other members? Is it easy to get an aggregate profile of one's field background? So let me go ahead and show you. So this is somebody I am not connected with, and here's what it looks like whenever you pull up their profile. So I've chosen to show you. For me, I have a completely full profile because, I am who I am in here. And so I can show you actually what my profile looks like from what I'm seeing here, and then actually show you what it looks like whenever somebody else would view it. So my profile, you can see I've got everything completely filled out. I've got an about me section. I've got my major and field of study here. And so then you want to see how it looks and see what it would look like for somebody else. And this is exactly what it would look like. They would be able to see my major and field of studies. They would be able to see my about me section, and then they could also view my CV or resume. And you do have the option, if you already have your CV or resume ready to go and you just want to upload that, you can do that, or you can create it here. And then you would also be able to see how many people you're connected with. So if anybody so the demographic question that you're asking about, all of that, if I wanted to share my demographic information, my race, ethnicity, gender, all of that stuff, I would need to personally put it in here. Otherwise, that stuff does not show. But the field of study does display. As far as being able to actually find all of that information, so we do publish an aggregate level of information on that data, but we don't actually share that with the outside sources. So if you if you were coming to me and saying, hey, we've got a group of people, we want to make sure that this is the group of people that you have. Let's say you are at an HBCU and you want to see what our population numbers of African American or Black participant levels for mentees and mentors are. We could provide you that information if you needed it. We are working on publishing that information, but if you needed that for something, then we could definitely work with you to get that to you. Something else I wanted to point out along those lines is that before you log into my NRMN, you can also see how your school ranks within our number of members within each school too. So you are able to see that. But again, it's on an aggregate level. And I believe that that information also does show within the search feature. I believe that would show up here too. Yeah, so it does show their institution as well. All right, these have been some great questions. Oh, looks like I missed one. Can mentees get connected to mentors working in NIH intramural and extramural research centers? So yes, you would have to be able to search for that, which that is an option. So if you plug in NIH, you can see people that have indicated that they work for NIH and work with that to them. Now you would have to specifically ask them what type of research center they work in if you wanted to do it that way. But I would recommend actually, instead of going for NIH, actually looking at the type of research centers that you're looking for, or the specific names of the research centers. Often people will put in, where they work on here, and so that way you're able to search more specifically that way. And alternatively, you can also search by location of that. So if you know where some of them are located, um, so specifically, we can clear out the search and just try and look for Bethesda, Maryland, which is where NIH is located, and see who all is there. Now, this doesn't guarantee that everybody who shows up on this list is, working with the NIH, but it gives you a good idea about it. Okay, let's see. Say if I want to know of all psychologists working in the field of aging, can I get a snapshot of the number of members to explore further by one, besides just the suggestion from the algorithm? Um, Let me see if I'm answering this properly. So let's see, if we look up aging here, and then we could narrow it down to psychology. So I don't know that this would be a necessary snapshot, but it would be people that have both of those terms listed within their profiles, or that have both things listed for that. Is that what you're asking? I want to make sure I'm answering properly. Um, if not, we would be able to, you'd have to give us some time to analyze the data, but I could go through and show all the people that have psychology. I'd be able to show an aggregate of how many people have listed psychology in their profiles. Um, but yeah, okay, good. That did answer the question. So yeah, you can definitely kind of play with the filters in here and play with the search terms that you're putting in here to really narrow it down to what you're looking for. All right, we have about 5 minutes and I want to make sure we respect everyone's time. Are there any further questions that are coming up? I'll definitely still give you the full 5 minutes here. Awesome. Well, I do also want to point out that my contact information, if you have any questions, if you need anything moving forward, if a question spurs after we get off the call today and you have something that you want to ask, you are absolutely welcome to reach out to me directly. So this is the email address, this info@nrmnnet.net is the one that is our general email that you'll see on everything. And I answer that and respond to all of that. Um, and you can also contact me though directly at my university email address here. And I'm going to post these into the chat as well, just in case you need those and in case that makes it easier for you. So like I said, once we get off the call today, and we are going to send the recording of this to Andy and Keikoa, and then that way they can disseminate that out to all of you. I'm also going to send my slide presentation out to them as well, so that way you can have access to all those links directly. And just that way, hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you work with other organizations and you want to be able to see what this would look like for them, we also do demonstrations all the time and do, just even one-on-one calls and things. So if you're looking for any sort of a consultation with this, let me know and I would be happy to set up a time for you to go over that. So I'm not seeing any new questions on here. Want to make sure. But I think that means it's about time for us to wrap up today. Andy, did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we close out?
No, I think that covers it. Katie, thank you so much on behalf of APS and our attendees for just the wonderful presentation. I'm encouraged to go into my own NRMN profile actually after this and make sure that all my details are updated personally. Again, like you mentioned, we look forward to sharing the information that you'll share with us with members. And I know there were some great questions and links and the like in the chat that we'll make sure to communicate with everybody also. So there will be ways to access all this information in the future. This is fantastic, Katie. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much, everybody, and have a wonderful afternoon.